Hello everyone. So before I completely start this, I just want to go and say right now that I am deeply sorry for not being able to upload for you guys or anything like that. Full hearts out there. I really did not mean for you guys to have no videos for the longest amount of time that you guys haven't had any videos, especially any updates to this particular fanfic as well, because I know a lot of you guys are waiting patiently for this fanfiction, and I know you guys like it, and I deeply apologize for it. Now, sorry if I sound a little wonky. I don't know exactly why, but I am still able to read you guys. May not be perfect, but it's okay. Also, I'd like to mention if you guys could possibly check out my communities, because I did set out a more of a current situation that's going on, and I would like you guys to read it. All I can say right now before I start is that if you're new here, you probably won't understand, but I'll explain it after I read this if there are any new readers or listeners, excuse me, or anything like that. But I'll explain it after because I don't want to really upset the mood. But anywho, we're currently in chapter 5 of the consequences of imagination's fear. That's what we're reading today. But I'm going to go back a chapter for the purpose of the recap. Actually, I'm going to stop my old self from continuing on with that, because to be honest, it was a complete fail on reading the recap, because it was like a lot of detail in one chapter, and I honestly couldn't really decipher through it, and I was like, So instead of making you go through that misery, because it is very insufferable, I am just gonna give you guys a little short thing. So there's a lot of codes. We end up kind of ish meeting Wally, and we think our phone is possessed, and we take it to a phone thing, and they don't know what's wrong with it, and then we go back home, and then whatever. So that's gonna be the recap. So now officially actually getting into these warnings. So hey guys, it's been a while. I know it has. Anywho, for the warnings of these chapters ahead coming up, there will be mentions of probably some depressing topics, potential family stuff going on, loneliness, been drowned activities, I call it, which is just glitching and all that, etc. stuff. And well, let's see what it's what should I call it? I'm gonna just call it Morse code. There you go. Just different code. It's not Morse code, it's a different type of code. I think it's a Versier code or something. I can't remember what exactly it's called, but it's some type of coding going on in here. So if you're the type of person that loves to decode stuff, this is the story for you. But if I have any other warnings I totally forgot to warn you guys about, they will be on the screen right now. You guys have been warned. Now, anyways, we are officially in chapter 5, First Contact. Summary. People say not to engage with the unknown. They never tell you what to do if the unknown engages with you first. Interesting. Interesting. You didn't know it yet, but you had a problem. It would be a lie to say it wasn't thrilling, to some degree. In a twisted, mangled way. It was electrifying to be noticed, to be seen. The screen looked up at you for the first time without squinting or shaking or internally screaming. You were looking back. The pleas grew stronger still. Experimentally, you drew a small circle in the center, dragging your finger against the surprisingly cold glass. The red message reacted quickly, smearing away from your circle as it was erased, vanishing like it never happened. With a new one open with with a new open space, you made a squiggly shape in a triangle, curious about how it would work. You weren't given any choice in color, but it seemed that it didn't matter, as if it had been chosen for you. Your shapes were medium blue, a similar shade to the back of a European robin. The two colors contrasted each other nicely, carrying tonal values similar but not too different, enough to be distinct without being difficult to understand. And it was undoubtedly a more calming color than the bloody red, and almost pleasant to look at too. If red exclamation marks hadn't begun littering the screen, with mimics shaped of your own drawing being drawn along the si- beside them, they were rushed and clumsy, crooked and at times barely more than streaks. It proved obvious eagerness, restlessness. Had it not fed the pit of fear within you, it would almost be cute. Your next challenge was, what was this word? Unintuitively, to figure out how to remove what you've already drew. There were no symbols showing a draw or erase tool. There were no buttons or text boxes of anything of the sort. It was just the screen and you, and whatever was drawing in red. Everything that should have been on the screen was gone. You couldn't go to another app. You couldn't even see the time or battery charge. Double tapping did nothing but leave two dots. Holding down on a pre-existing doodle also did nothing. Through trial and error, mostly remembering things may had that had worked in the past, you tried figuring it out. The funny looking thing about it, if you allowed yourself a moment of lightheartedness, was that it seemed to sorely confuse the thing drawing in red. Each attempt was more random, the results barely legible. Question marks appeared, sometimes joined with a little "what?" Pointing at your marks. It was oddly reactive, as if it was trying to learn from you, adapt and understand your motives. It was unnerving. Eventually, you simply turned it off. You forgot the screen doesn't turn off, not when it didn't want to. And now that you had finally responded, it seemed that it wouldn't turn off anytime soon. Admittedly fascinating, the sheer levels of excuse me, the sheer levels of d- determin determination, the complete and utter control over things that didn't make sense. You didn't notice the seeds of investment taking root in your mind. Still small, undetectable, but as long as a giant plant roots, it can claim a home. You needed to know more. The screen was wiped blank, free from the blue of before. It was exciting, now knowing how to communicate with the thing. It was hard to believe how easy it had been. You now could truly and actually respond, but what did it want from you? What if it was trying to trick you? How dangerous could it be, communicating with something that defied your expectations of reality? Could you really trust it if it claimed it wouldn't hurt you? How much faith could you invest into the unknown? How much curiosity did it take for it to kill you, the metaphorical cat? Most importantly, did you even have a choice? At your silence, minutes ticking by faster than you were aware of, a new red message was drawn on the screen. It was hesitant, though, each letter being written painstakingly perfect, even being erased at one point to be redrawn when some of the letters were too crooked. The red almost looked toned down. It wasn't as bright, more like an artificial strawberry. Are you okay? You couldn't help it. You laughed. It was a quiet laugh, one born from disbelief and turning to a form of relief. What the hell? This thing had been haunting you, demanding your attention, sending you messages that gave you borderline panic attacks. It had hijacked your life in less than 24 hours. And would you throw a fit if and would throw a fit if you didn't entertain it. And now, somehow, it had the audacity to pretend to care for you. You are glad you have traveled home before this little experiment, because you definitely looked a few degrees from the sane, off from sane at the moment. Your laugh grew louder, uncontrolled as you stared at the writing, unconvinced. A little upset face was drawn underneath. You cracked up more, throwing the phone down and wrapping your arms around yourself. What had your life come true? It was ridiculous, beyond what you could imagine. You were beginning to think it was all a crazy nightmare, or hallucinations caused by a lack of sleep. You decided to rest first and make a plan before continuing. Surely it would wait a little longer? It could wait a little longer? It totally wasn't because you were completely and utterly terrified of what it could do. It had been 2 days since you last sent anything to the thing in your phone. It felt weird not checking up on your socials, seeing what people had posted, the cool new art posted by your favorite artists. You tried using your laptop, but it was still weird. No more spiraling. It would only boot up to static, showing a dark space that looked suspiciously like an empty room. Well, they say that a break from electronics can be good for the soul. Personally, you found there were only so many things you can busy yourself with before the lack of it was a thorn in your side, hooked in deep. Each day, whenever you weren't asleep, the phone would ring and buzz and scream for you every hour on the dot. Sometimes the outburst would last a few minutes. Sometimes it would last nearly half an hour. You took the habit of leaving your apartment when it happened, or if you weren't in the mood, you shut your phone in the cabinet in your bathroom. Leave it, and clamp your hands over your ears. It was a dysfunctional relationship, to say the least. Though you thought any relationship with an eldritch thing threatening you constantly while possessing all your personal communication devices would be dysfunctional. It was just a part of the natural dynamic. It was especially worse when, like in this situation, the electric thing is mad at you. While you were scared of what that anger could turn into, you were more afraid of what would happen if you didn't put an end to it. Whether communicating with the thing would put an end to its fury or not was a whole other debate you simply didn't have the energy to consider. Abandoning it wasn't an option, though. You shuddered to imagine what it could do to someone else, and you couldn't deal with the guilt of that possibility. Your self-preservation was torn between fight or flight, settling down on freeze until it got too much. So on the third day of ignoring it in hopes the entire situation would fix itself, you found yourself digging out your phone from the bathroom cabinet, unwrapping it from the tangle of towels around it. You kept your fingers blocking the camera lens until you were settled on your couch. 5 minutes to 2 p.m. You eternally begun a countdown to the hour. Each minute dripped by like thick honey, ever so slowly dripping down, 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 until it pooled into a sticky puddle. In this case, the puddle consisted of your ever mounting anxiety, an emotion you'd grown miserably familiar with. It clung to your heart, stuffing your organs, drowning your mind. It coated you like an unwelcome shield, its protection false, a sweetened lure. You counted the various sounds you could hear, half distracting yourself and half hoping you could put off the inevitable. You could hear the hum of electricity caused by your old fridge chugging away in the corner of the kitchen, a low droning sound that acted as a backdrop to your apartment. You could hear the faint sounds of birds outside, mostly chickadees and finches, even the stray caws from a murder of crows. And you could hear your heart thumping away. spiking faster as the seconds passed by, the blood rushing through your ears, filling any void it could. Slithering to capture your awareness, you could hear your breathing, stuck in a loop where you had to manually remind yourself to breathe, as if the air was being forced out. You could hear the phone ringing. You startled, gazing down at the phone as it begins its usual pings and buzzing. You're admittedly curious or perhaps apprehensive of what may happen, but you build up your strength, regardless of how flaky it felt, to confront the thing in your phone, so that was what you were going to do. Putting it off any longer would simply be too dangerous. A message appeared, scribbling like it wasn't meant to be read. It came in waves, barely settling down between sentences, the vibrations making it shaky. The screens flickered twice before you were able to read it, though it was full of jumble, not a single real word made. I don't know if those are codes or not, but I'll go back to that if I actually think those are codes. After a tense pause, the screen flickered twice again, this time repeating the same message over and over again. Okay, that actually might be secret code. Hold up. It continued on for a few minutes, the phone being swept up in a storm of red. Sometimes it covered the entire screen, soaking it in a deep blood red. Sometimes it faded, leaving an inky black that reflected no light. The notification pings would stop for a minute before the turmoil began anew, the vibrating nearly pushing the phone off the edge of the table. It stopped when the camera saw you. You forgot that it could see you. Two eyes glared back, locked on and unwavering. You felt an icy chill run down your back, infesting your spine. They didn't blink, didn't move, didn't do anything except watch you. The pupils were blown wide, almost overlapping the whites. The phone had stopped making a racket, and the new silence felt louder than it had. Impossibly more intense. The emptiness in your ears was vast, prickling like static. A new message appeared, ever so slowly, the eyes not leaving your own. Why did you leave? You gulped, halting, bringing your hand over to hover over the screen. Your eyes moved away, giving you some distance. But it also gave you perspective, a new point of view. Wherever the thing was, it wasn't just a black void. It appeared like a darkened room. Something about that made you deeply uncomfortable, because it meant that your phone wasn't just an interface of sorts, like displaying your phone on a television. It was more like a camera, a video, a two-way view, with only a screen as a separation. Caught between rushing your response and thinking it over, you ended up drawing a little sad face, tears coming out of your eyes. You drew out an arrow pointing at it, tilting it as me, titling it as me. Nothing happened. Gingerly, you picked up the phone, awaiting a response. It drew a mad face. Whoops. Now that you had confirmation that the thing was pissed, you struggled with what to say. Would you reassure it? Because you sure as hell didn't feel like doing that. Should you apologize? After all, you did ghost it for days after first contact. But on the other hand, you weren't the only one that needed to apologize. That thing was creepy, and had no respect for that little, tiny, totally unimportant thing called personal boundaries. Should you wrap it back up in towels and throw it through the window of the nearest church you could find? You'd never been particularly religious, but if that was what it took to be free, some part of you was tempted. Possessions and exorcisms. You'd seen them through films and with them know how they go. And it would be hilarious to have one performed on a phone. But then again, you were also oddly against the idea. Not out of fear of possible revenge, but rather out of a sense of being, well, Your life had grown stale, solitary. Rosie was a clear mentor and someone you looked up to greatly. And you indeed felt in debt with all the help she's given you. But you two weren't exactly extremely close. Besides Rosie, you were acquaintances with various folk from town, budding friends with a few artists in the area and a bakery you loved. But it wasn't the same. It didn't fill the void that having a friend you knew better could. It didn't ease the feeling of being alone in a world you struggled in could. That was your fault, though. A part of you, a part of you that you didn't want to recognize. A part that frightened you beyond its possible links. It longed for connection. And regardless of whether you consciously wanted it to or not, it latched onto the thing on the phone. It had proven in the last few days to be consistent in contacting you. Whether it was a good thing or not was still unknown, but at least it was consistent. When was the last time you had talked to someone from home? Your home before this one. Was it not sad you sought acknowledgement by something that may aim to kill you? The angry face morphed into a simple question. Why? You barked out laughter, halted and airy. It almost sounded like a cough. How sharp it was. It was a bad habit of yours, the nervous laugh. It made everything feel even less real, glossy, as if through fog or behind glass. Why? 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 How could you not know? You could yell with with how frustrated you were, barely holding back a stream of insults at the sheer audacity. The urge flowed through you, the molten metal injected into your veins. You stopped yourself purely out of preservation. Who knew what it would do if you kept treating it so badly? Who knew what it was capable of? Looking down, it had drawn more question marks, confused. It was stupid, you thought. How the hell did it not? Well, why? Was it dumb? Or was it just oblivious? How unaware could it be to its own actions? You might sometimes stumble over your own words and misunderstand what others say, but at least you knew what a threat was and didn't say them, especially not randomly to someone you didn't know. Fuck off, you shouted, throwing the phone on the other side of the couch. It bounced off the fabric of the arm, landing tilted on the cushion. You could still make out some of the screen, and your laughter returned at the sight. It was a sharp laughter, cold and bitter. The eyes were wide as if it was spooked. Everything from the screen erased with a simple note. That's not a nice word. You snorted as you read it. Was it trying to reprimand you? Seriously? You flipped it off into your gleeful spite, got another reaction from the phone, equally as surprised. The eyes boggled out from their non-existent sockets, pupils small and quivering. You shouldn't do that. It's rude. You howled, the absurdity catching up to you. Tears dripped from your cheeks, salty and hot. Your nose clogging and your breathing irregular. Your laughter was bordering on manic, fueled by everything that had been happening. A bonfire of emotions, burning hot, burning loud, building and building as your mind flashed between what ifs and could be's. It rose to a peak, threatening to explode into an inferno. The flames were born off despair and horror, unease and frustration, ultimately birthed by the choice the thing made to you to endlessly haunt you. It was spewing scorching sparks of hopelessness, glittering in the carnivorous void of your racing mind. What could you say? What could you possibly ever say to the thing to make the thing understand? You figured it wasn't possible to piss off the uppity, haunty phone-possessing thing much more. So you kicked back and threw your arms over the couch, lazily keeping eye on the screen. The eyes were weary, but it stopped shaking. now keen on studying you in your more relaxed position. It flickered between you and the distance separating you, making sure you won't move. As minutes passed, its curiosity led the eyes to look around, absorbing your living quarters. It got bored of the silence faster than you thought it would. Look at me. Talk to me. That was different. Your mouth was full of cotton. It felt like someone stuffed it. Your tongue was thick, heaviness, making it hard to shape your words. Shape the worlds? But you were getting used to the feeling of pressure surrounding you, pushing down on your body, compressing the very air around you. It was the feeling of the thing watching you. You realize the sensation of the eyes piercing your soul, pinning you down to examine you, an exotic butterfly. It was a slick oil coating your insides. But it was new, exciting, unknown. It was thrilling. Why are you doing this to me? You tried out the words, tasting them as you spoke. Your tone wavered, volume unstable, and voice cracking at the start. The phone buzzed, bright red flickering twice in joy. A large smiley face was drawn, as if encouraging your cooperation. Thanks for asking, neighbor. It drew more smiling faces, little doodles of hello dancing joyfully. I'm Wally. You froze, eyes wide. That was the exact thing you didn't want to hear. You didn't want to process it. You didn't want it to be true, because it couldn't be true. It was impossible. It couldn't be true. It was impossible. It was impossible. It couldn't be true. He wasn't real. He couldn't be real. It was impossible. And yet, I'm Wally, darling. Pleased to meet you. That is actually so cute. Aw, that's sweet. Now let's check the comments. See if they have any, secret codes or anything. Because remember there was, a secret code earlier that I was like, oh, that might be a secret code. So it seems like someone by the username of Twilight Princess 42 figured it out. So here is what they translated. Neighbor, where are you? Why did you leave? Please don't leave me alone. Please come back. Please, neighbor, don't leave me alone. Neighbor, neighbor, neighbor. In chapter 6, catabolic reality. Okay, so the summary for chapter 6. Devils speak with silver tongues, but so do showmen and lovers. What's trust without risk? That's actually very true. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. The sun was shining with its golden rays, bathing the plants in warmth. The trees swayed gently, leaves now fully out of their buds. The grasses were growing thick and long, the clovers dappling the front yard with wild violets and dandelions. Butterflies were drifting in circles, joining on the ground by grasshoppers and chirping crickets. Nature was at peace, the wind content, and your world was falling apart. It was crumbling, unraveling, being peeled apart, layer by layer. It was a tough scab, being tugged off, cold exposure to skin too new, too raw. Cherry tinged and smarting, flinching away from the strange, the unrecognizable. No thoughts flowed through your head, stuck trying in vain to hold up the decaying walls. The dust of rot filled your lungs, the taste of existential dread. It clung inside your throat like a film, sinking into your flesh from the inside out, betrayal from within. Your vision was dark around the edges, staticky and sharp. It seemed so stupid. You were being so stupid. You had known. Deep down, you had. All the clues pointed out to that truth. But it didn't make sense. It couldn't be real. The imagined cannot become reality. That simply was how things worked. How could you live in a world where literally anything was possible? Truly and actually possible. How could you live in a world that wasn't safe? You were well versed in what was and wasn't possible. As a kid, you dreamt of flying, drawing yourself with wings, sketching out con- contraptions that would let you become one with the sky. It was something your child self had longed deeply for. To fly, not within something, but by yourself. It was a longing for freedom. It was a part of you that had been buried under acceptance that it wasn't just possible. It had been soul crushing for everyone to tell you time and time again your dream could never become reality, never become real. But you learned that they were right. There simply were some things that could happen and some things that would never happen. And that more outlandish idea seemed, the more it sounded like a story, the less possible it was. That that didn't mean crazy things didn't happen. It would be foolish to think otherwise. But there was a difference between unlikely and flat out impossible. Like flight. In the early 1900s, there was a newspaper clipping deeming that humankind could never create flying machines, not one for millions of years. And yet, within the year, the first flying plane had flown, proving that prediction wrong. But this was different. There was a puppet from a television show that, as far as you could tell, despite your many nights and scourging the internet for all and any hints, it had never existed. Or just it was incredibly well hidden lost media. Considering the Sesame Street crack monster tape that people knew only from collective memory before it was found under suspicious circumstances, it could still be real. And yet, here he was, the impossible, waiting for your response. This is where you introduce yourself, neighbor. It's his eyes never left yours. Corners curled in amusement, glittering with expectation, large pupils drawing you in, invested. They were quirked upwards ever so slightly, indicating that the eyes had been attached to his head. Were they? It would have been tilted in curiosity. It was a gesture you know well, both warming and not to see it mirrored by something, someone. Your brain still struggled to think of him as not a character, but a real being that that had been haunting you. And oddly human relatable. It was oddly human relatable. You shivered. His red writing flowed smoothly onto the screen, the letters winking up at you altogether too cheery. It kept away from his eyes, leaving enough space so he can clearly gaze at you. It was interesting to ponder how relevant the eyes were to his sight. How, would anything blocking his eyes obscure his vision? Would only it block yours? Where was it exactly he was seeing from, and why he was so keen on watching? The glint didn't leave his eye as he continued, rolling past your silence with a gracefulness both confident and unnerving. I suppose you needn't tell me after all. I already know so much about you. What? Your response was delayed and nearly silent, his words ripping into the breaking fabric of your walls. What did you just say? What do you mean you know so much about me? Who told you? In place of laughter, he doodled a smiling face with increasing series of haws around it. They repeated for as long as you assumed he would have laughed for. Had the ability, it almost felt mocking. Watching the screen slowly filled with red haws as you waited, heart pounding and muscles tight. What do I mean? I mean, you've shared so much with me already. No, I haven't. What the hell are you talking about? You've shown me your life, neighbor. I've seen your town, your friend, your home, and your face. You paused, the urge to flee swelling up. In your chest, it felt like there was a trapped bird, wings beating, and beak pecking. The tips of its feathers brushing against your ribs, tiny claws reaching and grabbing for a threshold, something to hold on to. Faster it fluttered, heart speeding up to match. How long had he been watching you? Consistently. Constantly. Was it the entire time he was on your phone, or did it start before that? How much has he seen? How much does he know? Your brain was flooded with a series of questions, each one more desperate than the last. You wanted to interview him. Yeah, needed to. But before you could formulate a real sentence from your racing half-formed thoughts, he interrupted, almost smug. Strangely, you found it impossible to speak while the red writing appeared. It took time. It took time. But I learned how to navigate through this thing. It's rather confusing. From all your photos, I know that you're an artist too. Isn't that fun? What the fuck? You have been going through my phone? You shouted. Your voice reverberating. I'm just going to skip that word. Through the open space. He was drawing a picture of home in red, adding all the little details he could. But once he heard your voice, he stopped, eyes narrowing in annoyance. My, you must stop using such bad language. What will your neighbors think? I'm not the one who's stalking people, so answer my damn questions. He ignores you. A new message appearing. This time, the letters were more slanted. The supposed teasing tone more like biting, nearly threatening. With it, too, came two stick people, smooched on the bottom corner, so small that it was difficult to make out. The one was crying, tears running down their cheeks as the other one was handing them a large lollipop, smiling. You could tell which one from the giant blue swirl representing his pompadour on the non-crying stick figure's head. That's a trick question, of course. Did I trick you? I know so... I know you have no neighborhood here. What? That's sad. I'm sad for you. Your mouth hung open, unable to think of a response. Was that an insult? An observation? Pity? It was hard to tell, especially from the lack of tone in every single message by him being sent in a blocky, childlike spiral. The red was too distracting, but slowly you were getting more used to it. Familiar, but not in a way that made you feel any more at ease. I know. Why don't we be friends? I already know all your hobbies and interests, and I know you don't like to talk about your Shut up. Just shut up. You threw yourself off the couch with your hands clenched, fingernails digging into your palms. You don't know me. You don't know my life. You're just some... I don't even know. Some sort of possessed doll tracking down a new victim? Some hacker behind a screen terrorizing people for fun? It was too much. Too overwhelming. The carpet under your socked feet felt weird. Too soft in some spots and too hard in others. You struggled to catch your balance as you got away, needing more and more space from that infernal device. The tension was too much, too sudden, too everything. I don't even know what the hell you are. Just leave me alone. That's all I want, okay? The phone was silent. The blank screen as you made your way towards the kitchen and out of view. The silence was heavy, crushing even. Each sound of your footsteps felt like elephants stomping, far beyond what it should be. The regret that wasn't your own washed over you, soaking through your skin and permeating your very bones. It was oppressive, a too tight jacket. It was a plight, viciously choking out your own emotions, smothering them to death. Your anger simmered, your fear dampening as you felt sorry for what you have said. But you weren't sorry. You counted the kitchen floor tiles as you paced back and forth, always turning 180 degrees when you hit the fourth tile. Your vision was fuzzy around the edges, like dark shadows were slowly invading. Your joints felt stiff, unusually stiff, more akin to bending wire rods rather than being your own limbs. Even though the front door was just right there, right where you could see it, it was just where you could almost reach it, but you somehow couldn't get to it. Your body physically wouldn't allow it. Arms dangling near limp and hands stuck clenched. Your legs kept marching you back and forth, pacing to fill the silence. pacing to fill it yourself. You strained, eyes wildly searching while you tried moving towards the door, each time externally cursing when your body turned away from the door once more. There was something you were supposed to do, but your memory was starting to fail. You searched wildly, scanning the kitchen cabinets in front of you. There was something you needed so desperately to do, but you couldn't remember. You turned, looking down, looking to count the steps, struggling to maintain your breathing. Could that, could, what could it be? Where could it be? What could it be? Where could it be? You turned again, looking at the stove, looking at the fridge as you passed. Shouldn't you remember it? Well, if you couldn't remember it, it must not have been important. You paused, thinking. You forgot something, didn't you? Did you? What had you been looking for? You sat on the floor unprompted, practically melting on the spot, with your back leaning against your kitchen cabinets and your legs stretched out in front of you. It all seemed unimportant. You giggled a little, finding it funny how odd your legs looked. More like rags and turned weirdly. Loose like rags and turned weirdly. You found yourself slouching sideways, spine no longer supporting you as you slid down, arms splayed out uselessly. You were calm. You were relaxed. What were you so worried about? The coolness of the tiles soaked through your clothes, and it was reassuring how real it was. You didn't have to worry about it deceiving you, lying about the nature of its existence. It was solid, present, and a soft pale dove gray lacking any distinction other than its reliable nature. The most important distinction in your mind was that it was reliable. What could be more important than that? Being reliable. Pushing through difficulties to be there. Sure, the floor wasn't sentient, for what house was truly sentient? But it still was still reliable. You were never worried about breaking under your feet or crumbling under the weight of the furniture. It still pushed through difficulties, like when you stacked half of your belongings haphazardly on the couch as you laid the carpet down. At one point, did you ever worry about that, though? Why were you thinking about the floor? Wasn't there something you were supposed to be doing? The nagging didn't stop, but your brain was hollow. Thoughts were difficult, lumping together in unrecognizable, oozing globs of worry and nothingness. You couldn't remember. It wasn't important. The regret felt sharp, narrowing claws digging into your skin. It wasn't yours. Squirming alive and feral. You still couldn't move your legs or arms, but it still wrapped around them for you. Muscles pulling your legs close, no longer twisted oddly. Your muscles ached. How long had you been there? The phone rang. It was new. It was different. The phone's ring was the same as old rotary phones, similar to those you've seen in the oldest of old movies you've watched. It was high-pitched, distorted in a way that it seemed to get louder, more insistent. The ringing was inconsistent. Sometimes it merged together into a cautious stream of ringing. Sometimes it was distinct short bursts with long pauses, as if the person on the other end kept on calling you. You felt drawn to it. You felt drawn to it. You felt as though you should be afraid, but strangely you didn't actually feel fear. The prickling around your limbs grew as the ringing continued, encouraging you to move. Part of you wanted to listen, oh so desperately to answer the phone. Too desperate. The phone prickling became frantic, demanding you pick up the phone. But your phone didn't ring like that. Your thoughts were stuck in a haze of fog, unreachable. Wasn't there somewhere you needed to go? The phone answered itself. From the couch crooned a low static noise, paired with a series of thumps and scuffing sounds, soon followed by a voice, smooth and soft. It was nearly flat and a little slow. It was calming at first, when it called out to you, but it changed, not in tone or in inflection, or even how it sounded, but in the way that gave you goosebumps. It was the sound of blood rushing through your ears that changed. instead of a gentle stream, basically unnoticeable unless you were in complete silence. It turned into a roaring river, a tsunami in a fractured bottle threatening to crack the longer he spoke. Hello, new friend! Why don't we try this again? I'm Wally, Wally darling. It's so nice to finally meet you. The static got louder. It was hard to speak. What did you do to me? His laughter was haunting. It wasn't venomous. It wasn't mean. It wasn't apathetic, but it was hollow, as if he was merely mimicking the concept of laughter, rather than doing it himself. Halted, awkward, it filled the entire apartment, despite it being rather quiet. Again, he deflected your questions, seemingly unaware of your fear, or uncaring. You couldn't quite say. Why don't you come over here so we can see each other? Wouldn't that be nice? You didn't move. You didn't want to move. You did move. You didn't want to move. I'll answer your questions if you do. Your body started to get up without permission. Gangely, each limb was stretched out longer and longer out from beneath you. Stumbling like a newborn fawn, you hold on to whatever you can as you stepped closer. Socks slippery on the tile. He awaited patiently this time, confident his bribe would work. The phone only made a few knocks and bangs as you steadily got to the couch, grimacing as you plopped yourself back down. He didn't look towards the phone, not wanting to see it change. No longer written messages. Would it be blank? I won't bite, neighbor. Why don't you look at me? Like, just, No, not me. Slowly, ever so slowly, you turned to the phone, still leaning, tilted against the arm of the couch. The eyes were still there, big and watching and not blinking. You wanted to look away. You so very much wanted to, but once you locked eyes, it was no longer possible. It was a staring contest, and those eyes had you trapped. This time you could see him, though. Actually see Wally, and it was visceral. The sense of wrongness was overwhelming. He looked like a hand-drawn picture, like the art on the website, lounging on a pushchair too large. He was leaning on one of the arms, one hand in the bright red... One hand, the bright red speaker on a phone. The other hand busy fiddling with the curled cord, twirling it around his fingers. His one ankle was crossed over the other, idly bouncing as he gazed out, large smile on his face. See? Isn't this nice? Don't you think this is nice? It was bizarre, seeing a hand-drawn character move on its own. Even weirder knowing he was still a puppet. A cartoon of a puppet. How odd was that? He gave a little wave as you continued to stare, head tilted. Neighbor? Hello? Is this thing on? He pulled the phone away and tapped on the speaker, pretending it was a microphone that he didn't know was actually on or not. He pulled the phone away and tapped on the speaker, pretending it was a microphone that he didn't know was actually on or not. It was harmless, playful. He even looked away from you as he fiddled around with the phone. Without his eyes pinning you in place, you could finally breathe. You took in great lungfuls of air. The static was no longer as loud. You could hear yourself think. And even though he kept brushing off your questions, you needed to know what he did to you, what he could do, what he will do. Will you answer my questions now? He sighed, and though he no longer seemed as joyous, his lips were still quirked up in a much smaller, but still present smile. His voice lost a showman-like quality, almost whispered like he was dropping an act he was putting on. It was faster, too, rushed like he didn't want to be overheard. Had it been an act? Oh, friend, I had to do that to calm you down. You get so scared so easily. I worry about you. Are you okay now? You still couldn't move your body. What had he done? He shook his head, tutting. You know, you'd been rather a rude host, First you ignored me, then you were panicking every time I tried to introduce myself. And now you're telling me to leave using some terrible crude words. Truly, that's no way to treat a guest. You choked on his words. A guest. Guest implies I invited you here, which I never did. The audacity. The nerve. You never went to some mirror chanting Wally Darling 3 times while like summoning the Bloody Mary. And even if you did, that was a kid's game. It wasn't supposed to actually summon anything. See, there it is again. You invited me here when you clicked on home on our website. Didn't you notice the doors open? It didn't do that. It didn't do that? What are you, some sort of vampire with cryptic ass reasonings for when you can and can't enter places? I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. His foot stopped bouncing, his eyes downcast. The hand playing with the phone cable was gripping it tightly, his body posture stiff. He sounded genuinely confused, throwing you off. Dracula was huge before Welcome Home was made, and on the website's art gallery, one of the puppets had even dressed up as one. You opened your mouth to continue, but he cut you off. He was shaking, huge eyes, tiny pupils locked onto your own. The frenzied look was back, the one that's been haunting you ever since that cursed night. Do you have any idea how hard it was to leave that place? Do you have any idea how long I've been trying to talk to someone? And look, you haven't been ideal either, neighbor, but I'm not leaving. I'm not going back. You're stuck with me, and that's final. His facade was breaking down, the edges of the room getting darker, the shadows reaching out towards the puppet, clawing closer as he got up from the chair. Following him as he walked up to the screen of the phone, instinctively you leaned back. You can't make me go back. I won't go back. You didn't know what to say. You didn't know who he was talking about. The edges of him started to fizzle, getting chaotic as he pressed a hand against on the glass. It was like the drawing of him was breaking down, only with his eyes never faltering. The roar of static distorted his words, turning into a nonsensical jumble. That is code. If there's no code in the comments, well, I'll do it myself. If he could cry, he would be. You still couldn't move. Code, and then code at the very bottom. Okay, let's go to the comments and see what they have dissected. Let's see. I'm just like going through here. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, Twilight Princess 42 has dissected it. Thank you, Twilight Princess 42. So here's all the uncoded stuff. Please, friend, I need your help. Please help me, neighbor. It's so darker. I couldn't see. I can barely see. You brought the light. Don't take it away. Don't take it away. Don't kill the sun. Eternal night stole it. It stole them all. Please, I need your help. We need your help. That is so beautiful. And it's a veneer cipher. Interesting. And the author said that they got them right. Yay! Thank you, Twilight Princess 42. Thank you, girl. Or guy. Or them. Thank you. So, that is so sad. But sadly, I'm gonna have to stop here, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it. What do you guys think is going to happen next? Do you think we're going to be able to build a relationship with Wally Darling or nah? Let me know in the comments down below. I also really appreciate the author using all these codes. I love figuring them out. It's amazing. Or having somebody in the comments figure it out and me reading it to you guys. Thank you. But at least I give them a little bit of shout out, They're the accounts are greatly appreciated. The people, greatly appreciated. Anywho, guys, before I go, there are some little things I want to say. I just personally wanted to apologize for the severely major delay of every video, and specifically including this fandom, because it was really delayed. I had a YouTuber-ish person help me out, but it just wasn't working out. It's in the in the communities if you want to see more details about it. For the people who are not new here, I'm here to confirm that Ollie is probably not going to be coming out for a while. And yeah, guys, I'm probably going to be the only main reader for now until maybe I find some maybe other people who are a bit more invested and are interested. But it's just mainly going to be me, guys. And I'm so sorry for that. I really wanted to expand the channel, but just didn't work out the way we wanted it to. And that's fine, you know. We all make mistakes. But I will keep trying to expand the channel as much as I can personally myself. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. I want to cut this short because I know people are like, I need to see this video, whatever. It won't be as detailed as most videos because I need this posted as soon as possible. Do apologize for that. But anywho, before I go, I gotta usually say my line, you know what I'm saying. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing videos, guys. I cannot promise that I will be uploading every week, but I will promise that I will be trying to at least upload once or twice in like 2 or 3 weeks, because how busy I am with the current situation I'm in. Also, if you want to know more about that, that's also in the communities on my YouTube channel. But your girl's gotta go, sadly. Bye and peace.